Hello, good evening, everybody. My name is Alamidi Success Fashogwan. Um, my matric number is CSC 2023/206. Today, I'm gonna be talking about my Lab 5 and Lab 6 for CSC 208 practical. Um, so let me quickly just okay. So this is me, and for Lab 5, I was assigned to 133. Question 133, and for lab 6 I was assigned to 189. So starting with lab 5, so I was told to write a program that reads a number from a file and outputs the cumulative sum at each line. So let me quickly switch to my yes code. So okay, so I'm going to be explaining my code really quick. So what I've started with is I first of all defined a function which is read underscore hand underscore calculate underscore cumulative underscore sum, which takes in one parameter, which is the file name. And what I started doing immediately after was just to initialize some basic parameters, which is the cumulative underscore sum is equals to 0 and line underscore number is equals to 1. They're really going to be helpful later on to help detect what type of line and help us with the calculative sum. So after that, I tried the following code using the try keyword. I first of all started by opening the file, which I'm going to be getting the random numbers from. I did with open file name, which is going to collect the file name, har, which stands for reading the file, since we're not going to be writing, and the other encoding just is going to help us with dealing with characters, special characters. So moving really fast. So after that, I checked for lines in the files, that's specific lines in the files. I converted those lines. I converted whatever those numbers were to float numbers at this point. Then I took the cumulative sum using this function. I mean, using this operation. After that, I just printed, oh, I got this from this particular line from the user. This is the number I got. Then I did the cumulative sum. Then I gave it out at this particular point. I vomited it out back. So then this is just going to help us to quickly switch to the next line. So then I checked for errors, I checked for value errors, I checked for file no found errors, I checked for permission errors in case permissions were denied, and I checked for exception errors. And at this particular point, this code is more so like a main program execution code. So this is what the user is going to see whenever they run this code, and that's where they're going to be able to give back their input. So if I quickly run this code, so this is just run the code. So before that, I already created another file where I just inputted random numbers on each line. So if I call that file, that's random underscore numbers.py. So that just goes ahead to, sorry, let me just take this up real quick. So what it does is it takes the number that was given number at the first, has it to 0, that's we initialize in the first, and that gives it 3.0 since it's a float, that's a decimal. So then it just keep going around the loop, that's 6, and then it has to 9, and that just till it gets to the last line, then it just gives a total cumulative sum. So that's everything for lab 5. So moving really fast to lab 6, almost out of time. So lab 6, sorry. So my question is 189. So I was told to implement the statistics class to compute mean, median, mode, variance, and standard deviation from a data set. So moving back to the code, the first thing that I did was to import the math library from Python. I also imported the counter stuff from Python also, so I can be able to count the maximum frequency of numbers. Then I started off by creating the class. I created also a function in the class. So this is like an object-oriented programming. So I just went ahead to define, give it two parameters, which is self and data. For now, the data is still gonna be none. So we started doing self, the data is equals to data. If it's still none, then we moved on to validate the data at this particular point, while also converting whatever value to float. and we also checked for errors. Here we were setting the data using the set the data is equals to data at that particular point. Also here we were adding the values. We checked for errors also. Here we calculated the mean, so we said when we check for errors and everything is okay, we can just do the sum divided by the length of the data that we're going to be getting the random data set. So we also did the same thing for median. We checked for errors. We started the median first, then we got the length. Then this place we checked if the sorted data is going to give us an even number. So if that's the case, we're gonna just take the two middle numbers and add them together and divide it by 2, or we're just gonna, if it's an odd, using the if else statement, we're just gonna pick the middle one for the odd numbers. And so for then we also did the same thing for mode. We use the the counter function here, and we also check for the maximum frequencies, created an array, and we printed the mode. For variance, at this particular point, we check for error again. Then at this particular point, we used the value for mean that we got above, and so this time around we're going to be subtracting the real value minus the mean value. Then we're going to be squaring it. So then we create a sample, and at that particular point we move ahead to the standard deviation. So the standard deviation, this is where the math library that we imported was very useful. So we're going to be creating the variance that we just got directly above that. We'll come back to that in a second. So now when we just wanted to define the summary, so this is just going to give it like a pure total summary of everything we've done. It's more statistical. So then moving on to like a sample data set, a random sample data set. So if I just run that, really quick, so you can see it just gives us the data sets, gives us the mean, the median, the mode, using those values, and it gives us a total complete summary. So thank you very much for listening, and this is my lab 5 and 6 recorded assignment.